Hello. Bears, today we are back with a video that you probably don't need, but you're gonna get anyways. I've been doing makeup since I was in grade 6. The first time I went out and bought makeup for myself, I went with my grandmother to Shoppers Drug Mart, and one of the ladies there helped me pick stuff out. And the reason I started wearing makeup was because I was actually in a play, and you need to wear makeup like when you're on stage to like avoid any shine and just make your face look like it's there. So ever since then, I've been wearing makeup. The products that I've used, my routine, everything has changed so much over that year, and especially in the past year since I've been really interested in makeup. When I look back on how I used to do my makeup, I'm sad, and not just for myself, but for anyone who happened to see me. It was bad. I think that everyone goes through kind of like a bad makeup phase, except for apparently like kids nowadays who just like watch YouTube and know how to do their makeup from like the moment they're birthed out of the womb. The idea of today's video is to go through the products one by one and decide whether or not it's something that you should spend a lot of money on and splurge for, or something that you don't need to spend so much money on. And the reason that I wanted to do this is because since I've been buying more expensive products, I've come to find that there are a lot of things that I wish I had had when I was younger, like products I wish I knew about, because they just make your makeup experience so much better. And I'll say a little bit more about them as I go through. Let's get started. Of course, we start with the primer. I think when I first started doing makeup, primer wasn't really a thing. At least it wasn't something that I knew about. Over the years, I have been flip-flopping between primers, different kinds of primers, if I even use a primer. And now I feel like I kind of know a thing or two about primer. Should you go big or go home? I think that you don't need to go big with primer. I've used some really great primers that weren't very expensive. For example, I used the e.l.f. color correcting primer for a really long time, and I loved it, and I would still recommend that today. And that probably costs like around 10 or under, so very cheap and a very good product. What you do need to know when buying a primer is what kind of skin you have. Because if you have dry skin, you don't want to buy a primer for oily skin, or if you have oily skin, you don't want to buy a primer for dry skin. There's lots of different ways that you can find out what type of skin you have. You can just like Google it, like what skin do I have, test or whatever. There's like something with a tissue. If you know what kind of skin you have, it makes it way easier to find any kind of product. For primer, I would say go home. And a little tip, of course, is letting your primer soak in before you actually put your foundation on. Because if you just slap it on and then put your foundation on, it doesn't have any time to soak into your skin and actually do what it's supposed to do. Okay, so the next product is foundation. Up until last October, so I guess a year ago, I was using drugstore foundation. And then I moved up to the Tarte, which is a $50 foundation. When I was younger, I didn't realize that there were different kinds of foundation. I thought that they were all just foundation. I didn't realize there was like matte or dewy. I didn't realize there was different types of coverage. So, you know, I would probably buy a light coverage foundation and wonder why it didn't cover my pimples or whatever. So it's really important to know what kind of foundation you're looking for. I have splotchy skin, so I liked a full coverage foundation. I think foundation is one of those things where you need to try a lot to figure out which one you like. I think Sephora is really great because they do a shade match, and a lot of the foundation that I had was not the right shade at all. So I definitely wish I could go back and do some shade matching. The other nice thing about buying expensive foundation is actually that it lasts a really long time. Because they are a better quality, they are going to be more pigmented. They're going to stay a bit better. And the ingredients are going to be better. Like, for example, Tarte is really good at making sure all their products are vegan and natural ingredients. So I don't mind spending a little bit more, knowing that what I'm putting on my face is not chemically, it's not going to harm me. And the other thing is foundation is the base of your makeup. It's what holds everything together. If you don't have good foundation, are you going to have a good makeup look? I don't know. I don't think so. Go big with foundation. That doesn't necessarily have to be expensive, I guess, if you find one that you really like that's a drugstore brand. But you do have to shop around. So I guess in the case of trial and error, you will have to go big because you're going to spend a lot of money doing the trial and error. Okay, so I guess the next product would be beauty sponge. Any kind of blending tools, I guess. Go big. The blender, brush, whatever you decide to use to buff out your makeup is so important. I've gone through a lot of sponges, lots of different brands, lots of different kinds. I was always partial to either the sponge or the finger. I was never really a brush person. And when I say go big, I guess like this Morphe sponge that I've been using, I really like it. It was much different than the Beauty Blender when I first started, so it took a little bit of time to get used to, but I really like it now. It's not very expensive, and I've actually never tried the Real Techniques sponge, but I hear that that's pretty comparable to a Beauty Blender, and that's not very expensive either. When I say go big, I guess I mean get a product that is a trusted brand name, like the Beauty Blender, like Real Techniques, like the Morphe sponge, because they are used by all makeup gurus. They work really well. And you need to have a good blend, you need to have a good base to have good makeup. I've bought like sponges at Winners before, I've bought like the Quo ones. And to be fair, it wasn't until about a year ago when I started getting really into makeup that I realized you had to wet your sponge. So make sure you are wetting your sponge, make sure you are cleaning your sponge, and then you're also going to get a way better application. Okay, next product is concealer. Go big. Go big for concealer, for sure. Concealer is a really important step in the makeup routine. It highlights your skin and it also covers up all the stuff. Concealer is going to be your best friend. Go big. I have never found a good drugstore concealer. I've never found a concealer at a drugstore that covers all my blemishes, like full coverage, doesn't come off while I'm trying to blend it, doesn't fade throughout the day, doesn't curdle, doesn't blah, 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 blah. Tarte Shape Tape, which is the only expensive concealer I've bought, is the best concealer I've ever used. Until somebody gets me something better, I won't try anything else. This is all I'm gonna use until I die. And the fact that this concealer has elevated my makeup look the amount that it has, I find is enough proof for me to say go big, go big, go big, go big. Spend money on concealer. Like if you could see the amount of concealers that I have lying around because I bought a cheap drugstore brand thinking, oh my gosh, like maybe this will be a holy grail, and it just wasn't. I used to think if I ever had problems with my makeup, like if it was ever running or if it ever started kind of coming off, like curdling or like just in general not looking good, I always thought it was my skin or my fault that it was looking bad. If you're putting on foundation or concealer and it's not staying or just in general looks bad, it is not your fault. It is whatever product you're using. It's obviously either not working with the other products you have on or it's just a crappy product. Because I spent years and years hating myself and hating my skin for stuff that was not my fault. It was all my product's fault. I wish I could go back and sit next to the crying 14-year-old me and say, it's not your fault that your skin looks like this. This is just shitty concealer. And my life would have been a lot better. Would have saved a lot of tears. Okay, setting powder. So I don't really have a lot of experience in setting powder because I haven't been using it for very long. I have tried the CoverGirl setting powder, which is apparently supposed to be quite comparable to the Laura Mercier. Why can I not say that? You know, the expensive one. Laura Mercier, there we go. And it was okay, but I find like the color isn't very good. The color range isn't superb. It's a drugstore brand. And that's another thing with drugstore brands is a lot of times their color selection is like 5 shades, 4 of them are white, and 1 of them is like kind of dark. One that I have from CoverGirl is supposed to be translucent, but it's kind of yellow. It doesn't look bad. I guess. It's just the wrong color. This powder that I'm using, it makes my skin look better than it does naturally. I like wish my skin looked like this naturally. And I think that's kind of like what you want from your makeup. You want to love yourself naturally, but when you're putting makeup on, you're like elevating your look. So you really want everything to be elevated. And if you're putting a product on, and like I said before, if you're putting a product on that doesn't make your skin look better than it should, probably the wrong product. So I would say go big. And I would actually highly recommend the Perfect Peach Setting Powder because it also smells like peaches. I don't know if any of you have ever put setting powder on. I would hope so. Your setting powder will get in your mouth. This shit tastes like peaches. Just saying. This other powder that I put on top is from Makeup Revolution. It's not very expensive at all. I chose white, which I can do because I am white. They do have a good shade range. I know that they've like updated it a lot. So they do have more colors for deeper skin tones. But this is like stuff I put on top of my setting powder, obviously. So I have used it in the past as straight setting powder. I don't know if I would in the future. It's not as good as the Peach Perfect, which is why I would continue my recommendation of go big for your setting powder. Okay, next is brow gel. I would say go home for this one. I wouldn't go big for brow gel at all. I mean, I've seen people use soap for brow gel. So if you can use soap for brow gel, why the hell would you spend 30 bucks on it? Okay, so other brow products. Pomade. I'm using the Anastasia Beverly Hills one right now, it's really good. And I think I'll buy it again in the future. But I've also used other products which were fine. What I would say go big on is the eyebrow brush. Doesn't necessarily have to be expensive, but make sure you take time to find one that is very thin. So the point on this one is as thin as hair. One I was using before is quite thick. So it doesn't give you the hair-like brush strokes. It just kind of looks bad. So what I would say is if you're going to use a drugstore pomade or if you use an eyebrow pencil or whatever you use, just try and make sure it's more about the technique of doing your brows, I would say, that you want to go big with and take a little bit extra time doing. And yeah, if you are using pomade, invest in a teeny weeny brush. Okay, so the next product that I'm going to use is eyeshadow. And today I'm using the Fame palette by ColourPop for the first time on video. When it comes to eyeshadow, I wouldn't go big. If you are anything like me, you're going to have a bazillion eyeshadow palettes because I think they're very pretty. I don't have a lot of like really expensive palettes. Morphe is a brand that everyone uses a lot. It's really good quality, tons of shades. I think a palette is maybe 30 bucks, unless like, you're getting one that an influencer collabed on, and those ones are I think around 40 or 50. But you get so many shades. You get so many shades and such a good value for the quality that you're getting. ColourPop I find is the same, not a lot of money. Really great shade range on all their products. They release so many palettes every minute. Like this summer, I think they launched like 10 palettes. It was ridiculous in the span of like 2 months. So they have tons of stuff, not very expensive, and the quality is super great. I do, of course, have some Too Faced. I have an Urban Decay palette, which I hate. I hate the Urban Decay palette so much. Go home for this one. Don't go big. Kind of just figure out what you like. Before you buy a palette, you can always like go on YouTube and figure out, like see a review and see how someone else swatches them out, how they look on their eyes and stuff like that. That's what I would recommend before buying a palette. Only reason you would need to buy an expensive eyeshadow palette is for the clout. Now I'm going to brush this away. And speaking of brushes, should you go big or go home on brushes? Go big. Like your sponges, brushes are really important because you need them along every step of the way. And if you don't have a good set of brushes, you're gonna be able to tell because a brush that's too hard on your skin is gonna start pulling off the foundation or whatever you have underneath. Invest in a good brush set because they're gonna elevate all of your products. My logic was if I'm buying a $50 foundation, I'm not going to use a $2 brush or a $2 sponge to blend it out because I'm investing in a good product, which means that if I'm using something that is not a good quality to apply it, then I'm not getting what I'm paying for. If you take good care of them, you won't have to buy new ones. A sponge is a bit different because, you know, it breaks down a lot faster than a brush set does. Bronzer, go home. This one was like $4. I love it. Smells great, looks great. Blush is the same as bronzer. This one also very cheap. I do have this Tarte blush as well, which was expensive. They work the same. They look the same, they work the same. Go home on your blush. Highlighter time. This one is tricky. I don't know about this one, if this one is a go big or a go home kind of thing. I think it really depends on like what look you're going for. I love my Fenty Beauty highlighter because I can see it from a mile away. Every picture I'm in that I'm wearing this, my cheek is glowing. Like there's no need for any Facetune. You can see this highlighter from a mile away, which I love. I've used Essence Chrome eyeshadows as highlighters and they work excellent. This nice thing about Fenty Beauty is blends, like it goes into your skin really nice and it always looks good. I got this one in like a little kit that comes with this and a little lip gloss. It wasn't very expensive at all for the two things. It lasts a very long time. So if you are going to buy Fenty Beauty, like I would get the mini one because it does last for a long time. So I don't really think that you need to invest in a full-size product. And I know that there's lots of drugstore brands out there that do a really good job. I would say go home with your highlighter. Lashes. I think that with lashes, you don't have to spend a lot of money. I think it's just like what your preference is when it comes to lashes and just kind of figuring out what works for you, like playing around. If you wear lashes more often, I think I would invest in a more expensive pair because they have like a thicker band, which means that you can wear them more often. Again, like if you take care of them, and like make sure you're cleaning them and putting them back in their case and stuff like that, they will last a lot longer anyways. It really depends on your level of care for your lashes as well. As for lash glue, I don't think you need to spend a lot of money on lash glue, but I would definitely recommend getting the brush on kind. It's just way easier to apply and it dries way faster because it's not like you're accidentally getting huge globs or anything like that. Mascara, go home. I don't think you really need to buy very expensive mascara. I think it is one of those things where you kind of need to shop around and figure out what works best for you. I have been blessed for most of my life with really long eyelashes. As of late, I don't know, they're just not quite as long as they used to be, but that's okay. Yeah, but I don't think I use the Too Faced Better Than Sex mascara, and that's an expensive brand. I've used Essence mascara in the past, which I love, works really well. Go home with mascara. I guess normally people do eyeliner, although I really suck at eyeliner, so I'm not going to do any eyeliner. The one that I like using is this ColourPop liquid liner. Go home for that, I guess. It's another one where it's personal preference. Setting spray. This stuff doesn't work that bad at all. I do really like the Urban Decay All Nighter. Also depends on what you're going to be doing that day. If you're going to be, like what the weather is. Are you going to be sweating a lot? Are you going outside? Are you going to go in a pool? But for everyday use, I don't think that you need to buy the $40 bottle. I'm drying. I would say for lips, definitely a go home kind of deal. I have like $3 lip gloss right here. It's a bit sticky, but other than that, honestly, except for my hair getting caught in it, don't really notice any difference between this and the Fenty Beauty gloss that I have. As for lipstick, I'm not really a lipstick lips kind of person, so I guess I'm not really the best one to ask. Let's do a little recap on all the products that I've used and what I say go big and what I say go home. Primer is go big. Foundation is, again, go big for time investment. And also maybe splurge a little bit more. Don't buy the $2 stuff. Go for something that's going to be really good for your skin as well as being a good foundation. Concealer, go big. Setting powder, go big. Bronze and blush, go home along with eyebrow gel and the eyebrow pomade or whatever. Brushes and sponges, go big. Spend time finding what works for your skin. Spend time cleaning and taking care of them. And especially with brushes, spend your money to get a good set. Mascara, I would say go home. Get a drugstore brand. Lashes, go home. Go big on the lash glue. Get one with a brush. Just save yourself a lot of hassle. Eyeshadow palettes, go home. Lip gloss, lipstick, go home. Highlighter, go home. Setting spray, you don't need to spend a lot of money. And I think that was all that I did. I didn't really do a lot today. I completely forgot to put eye primer on. That's how much I don't care about priming my eyes. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you guys all had happy Thanksgivings if you celebrate that. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next week. Bye, bears. Bye, bears.